We're here with Congressman Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, part of the Democratic leadership, and here part of the Romney Economics Wrong for the Middle Class event. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
It's good to be with you.
I again am sort of mystified by this aim by Republicans to try to talk about Medicare as if they're trying to save it, when it goes back to the 1960s, when their leader, their Nirvana, Ronald Reagan, was on the air talking about Medicare in the 1960s as socialism, as communism. And I don't see how they have any real credibility, any creds on the idea of saving Medicare. I think it's just deplorable and also ridiculous.
Well, what you're seeing right now from Mitt Romney and the Republicans is a very calculated, cynical effort to confuse seniors, to throw up enough dust that they'll be able to hide what their plans will do to seniors on Medicare, because it's a really bad story if you're a senior on Medicare. What they will do immediately for seniors, not 10 years from now, is raise their premiums and copays because they want to restore overpayments to the big insurance companies. So they're going to be asking seniors to pay more so that they can restore overpayments to private insurance companies, number one. Number two, if you're a senior with high prescription drug costs, you're immediately going to pay a lot more because they reopened the so-called donut hole that a lot of seniors fell into and put themselves near bankruptcy. And third, you're going to require all seniors who get preventive health services to pay more for them, because one of the things we did in the Obamacare plan was to say, let's encourage seniors to catch diseases before they get worse. Let's give them incentive to come in to get that preventive care. Well, now it's going to cost seniors again. That all happens right away. On top of that, they then put in place this voucher plan, which is designed to save Medicare money, not by reducing overall costs, but to shift costs onto the backs of seniors. And so the voucher you get drops in value as healthcare costs rise, leaving seniors holding the bag. And I should point out that members of Congress have a plan that doesn't subject them to those kind of risks of rising healthcare costs. They have a plan that will keep pace with rising healthcare costs in terms of the contribution from the plan. And what they're proposing for seniors is just the opposite, a plan that is designed to provide a voucher that does not keep pace with rising healthcare costs.
What are your thoughts about, on a daily basis of responding to, of course, Mr. Ryan is going to be speaking tonight about this and so forth. Is it best to sort of make it very clear of the history of the Republican Party on Medicare and how, as I said, going back to the days of Reagan, that they have been against this and that it's folly for any middle-class person to think that they have their back?
Well, that's right. I mean, let's think about what the Republicans are proposing here. They're saying they essentially want to turn the Medicare program over to the private insurance market.
Right.
Well, let's now think about why Medicare was created. Right?
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So private health care companies didn't see a lot of profit, a lot of return in insuring older and sicker people, which is why you had so many Americans that had absolutely no coverage, older Americans. I mean, they were going without health care. So because the private market was broken, we established the Medicare system. Now, Republicans essentially want to turn it back over to the private market, which failed seniors in the first place.
Yesterday, Chris Christie was the keynote speaker. There was a lot of applause from some of the hard right wing, but to independent voters, and I tweeted after the speech that this was one of the most mean-spirited sort of attacks on the American people. In other words, what he's trying to say that you have to respect and we're going to be ready to cut. But they're not cutting the people who need to be cut, which are the top 1%. And it just, to me, seems to be, balance the budget on the backs of people making $50,000 a year. And this is from a governor who has the 48th worst unemployment rate in the country. I don't get it.
Well, I thought Governor Chris Christie's speech was a really vicious, personal attack. It'd be hard for me to believe that any sort of moderate person watching that would think that Chris Christie and the Republican Party want to bring Americans together to solve problems. It was a very, very divisive speech. And the reality is what they are proposing is a return to this trickle-down economic theory that would provide great tax breaks to very wealthy people like Mitt Romney, at the expense of everybody else.
And finally, the concept that we are now looking at of two parties. One party is for the 99% who wants to invest in America, innovation, infrastructure, and education. And then you have another party who just wants to basically, slash and burn all of it and focus on more tax cuts and less regulation, which seems to be the mantra, which is the things they've been talking about for 30 years that have led us into this problem with a higher debt and a falling bridges. It's just unbelievable. Is this message getting out the differences between the two parties in your mind?
Well, that's what we have to work every day to make happen, because we're in a critical period right now, and the Republicans are obviously putting out a lot of misinformation. They've got a full campaign of distortion going on, and so we need to cut through with the basic facts and implications of this plan. I mean, we need to make sure people understand the choices that are here. I mean, as you pointed out, we've seen huge deficits because we had back-to-back tax cuts in the Bush administration. We had wars that went unpaid for. And the president's been very clear. He wants to take a balanced approach. He said we have to make some cuts. We have to do some belt tightening as we move forward. But we also have to focus on jobs and the economy and getting people back to work. And it's interesting that Republicans now have not had a single vote on the president's jobs plan, which he presented to Congress last September, while they voted over 30 times to repeal Obamacare. And so what you have is a president who's willing to meet Republicans halfway. But the Republicans sort of in the Tea Party mode, just being unbending and uncompromising and unwilling to meet the president halfway for the good of the country. And really that's what we're hearing here. I mean, Mike Huckabee, former Governor Huckabee, just said the other day, if you want to see the Tea Party, look at our convention. They are our convention. If you want to see the Tea Party, look at the Republican platform. And Mitt Romney has harnessed himself to the hard-right Tea Party. And in fact, the Ryan budget, now the Romney-Ryan budget, this is like the Tea Party manifesto. I mean, this is an ideological document. And it is just a hard-right U-turn back to the failed trickle-down economics that brought us economic catastrophe and an economy in freefall, but dramatically hiked our deficits and debt.
I just thought about this. Last night, it took some 10 minutes of the speech of Chris Christie to mention the name Mitt Romney. It was not at all the case last night. It was the case last night with all the speakers, Walker, Kasich, same term. There seems to be not a lot of love for their nominee. This seemed to come as a surprise this week. This is supposed to be the inaugural sort of launching pad. Are you surprised?
Well, there was one speech, of course, last night where we heard about love for Mitt Romney, and that was appropriately from his wife, Ann Romney. But you're right, that was kind of the end of it. Right after that, and before that, you had these very sort of mean-spirited comments from Republican governors and other Republicans. And it really got personal. I mean, for a party that claims that they want to find solutions, all they could do is attack. The other thing I would say is, it's interesting to hear them talk about how their proposals are. I don't understand why it's bold to give people like Mitt Romney another tax cut while you're cutting Medicare for seniors who have a median income of under $23,000. How is that bold? I mean, Republicans are sort of in tow to this failed economic trickle-down theory, and they're willing to sacrifice everybody else in pursuit of that ideology, like seniors on Medicare, investment in kids' education, and middle-income taxpayers. And so I think the American people are going to see that when you roll back the covering, this is nothing more than a souped-up version of the Bush plan, worse in many ways, and with very dramatic negative consequences.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.